Welcome everyone. Today I am going to build a Google ad search campaign for somebody in the real estate industry. This could be a real estate agent representing homes in a local market, could be somebody who sells raw land, could be somebody who sells farm or niche properties like estates, or even a property management company and a short-term rental company. The same rules will apply. We're going to build the campaign in the same fashion. The only difference between those different niches in real estate is going to be, of course, the keywords. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's jump in. I'm going to use my Google Ads account to build this campaign, and I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to get started. While I build this, I'll let you know that I'm not a real estate agent. I manage Google Ads. So we're going to use my website as the URL, but you will need to send traffic to a URL. So be prepared for that. When I log into my Google Ads account, I'm going to hit the big blue plus sign almost in the middle of the screen right here towards the left to build a new campaign. I'm going to click New Campaign. And we're going to get started with some really basic settings, but some really important things that if you get right, it's going to really, really help you in the future. When I audit accounts, I always go back to look at the foundational settings in the account. Usually I'll find a mistake. So we can avoid mistakes by taking our time and doing this right. The objective is leads, of course. We want phone calls and form fills for our real estate business. Now, I've got some conversions already set up in my account. It's pulling those and offering them as suggestions for conversions. I highly recommend you set up conversions. The best way to do that is through Google Analytics or GA4. So if you have a website, you probably have analytics. Make sure you've got form fills and phone calls set up as events in there. Then you can connect the two accounts and import the goals over to Google Ads. That is a whole nother video that I swear I mention this every tutorial. I'm going to go build that video where I show people how to do that. It's next on my list, I promise. But for now, don't get caught up if you don't have conversion goals. Circle back around to it. Setting up a phone call conversion is super easy. Before the video ends, I'll give you a quick tutorial on how to get started with that. Just know it pre-filled those for me because I have accounts and campaigns that are live in here. So it's just pulling from those. I'm going to hit continue in the bottom right-hand corner. This is really important. This is the campaign type. This is where Google Ads will show when we set things up. We want to use search. It's the first option for today. Performance Max is great for brick and mortar businesses and e-commerce businesses. You're going to show up on Google Map Pack. You're going to Map Pack, say that 5 times fast. You're going to show up in the shopping feed. And really any brick and mortar, even restaurants, it's really good for. Demand gen is very high funnel traffic, not low funnel traffic. So it's very cost effective, tons of impressions at a very low cost per click. Display, very similar. It's going to be higher funnel unless you use it for retargeting, but this is going to be banner ads on things like ESPN.com or weather.com. It's really good for brand awareness. Shopping is pretty self-explanatory. You got to have a Google Merchant Center account. You're going to have a product feed, and you're going to show up just on Google Shopping. Videos where you can put videos on YouTube like this, and you have ads running on specific channels or for specific content. Today, we're going to focus on search. It's our first option. That's Google's bread and butter. Users have intent. They go to Google to solve a problem. Real estate agent near me, and they want to see good results. Select the ways you'd like to reach your goal. So I usually pick phone calls and lead form submissions for anything lead gen, and I use the phone number that's published on my website. You need to do the same. Google's going to crawl the website and try to confirm that that number exists there. So if you use a different number, you might not get that phone number approved and wouldn't be able to track phone calls to it. So make sure that the number that you publish here in Google Ads is the same number that you're published on your website. Don't get too caught up on the campaign name. I'm going to title this Real Estate Leads just for us, but that's just a personal preference. We are going to start a new campaign. And bidding is really important. So we've got multiple options. Let me open that up for us. So we've got conversions, conversion value, clicks, and impression share. Most people use one of the default ones, which is going to be conversions. It's one that populates the first, and it makes a lot of sense. It's very logical to say, yes, that's what I want. I want phone calls and form fills. So please maximize conversions as a bid strategy. I actually start every campaign, especially if it's new, new industry, new client, new account. I'm actually going to start with a click-based bid strategy, get some traffic, get some data, make some refinements, and then switch to a conversion-based bid strategy in a few weeks. I want to accumulate some conversions. Google back in the day actually has some really good content on this. It was their suggestion to wait till you had 40 conversions in the account, not the campaign, and then to switch to a conversion-based bid strategy. I want you to start with a click-based bid strategy. We want to collect traffic. We want users to engage with our website. Of course, we want form fills and phone calls. That's why we're spending money on Google. But start with clicks, get some conversions, make sure they're good, high quality, and then switch to a conversion-based bid strategy. So you might see a higher cost per click with a conversion-based bid strategy, right? So we want to get more traffic first as inexpensively as we can to see how users behave, and then we can make that switch. So I start with click-based bid strategy. I don't set a maximum cost per click. I could, let's say I wanted to cap it at $5 a click. It sounds nice. The problem is you're not going to show up during busy hours for relevant search queries. They're going to save you for the off hours when things are less expensive. I don't like a setting a cap on this. There's one exception if I was doing a branded search campaign for somebody, so I was bidding on the name of the business, I would absolutely use a click-based bid strategy, and I would actually cap this at like a dollar, maybe even lower, 50 cents. I'm gonna go down and hit next in the bottom right-hand corner. Really important by default, Google wants to show your ads on their search partners. This is other websites and domains that Google owns. And they also want to show your ads on the display network, even though we said we don't want to do display ads, we want to do search. It's crazy that they want to include it. I strongly advise you to start your campaign with neither. Once you earn success, you could circle back around and split test adding these if you want. But when you launch, just be on google.com. That's where we want our ads, the search network. So deselect those. Locations, also really important. A lot of people will go down here, and in real estate, it's usually regional. So they click this fourth option, enter another location, and they enter this and they move on. Don't do that when you enter something here. I'm in Clearwater, right? So if I were to add Clearwater, like that, it's going to add the borders for the municipality, and it's really jagged, and it actually doesn't include several areas and neighborhoods that as a real estate agent I would want to include. So this is a big mistake. Google doesn't really give you good advice here. Looks like you just put in your city or your state or your zip code and then you move on. Highly recommend using radius targeting. How do you do that? We're going to click advanced search right here in blue. And you can see that Clearwater line is really an awkward area. And there's even holes in it. So we don't like that at all. So let's take that off. And instead up here, I'm going to click radius. And now I'm going to put Clearwater. And I like that. That's perfect. That's a 20-mile radius, and it's covering a good chunk of land that I know I want to represent people. You can adjust this. You can hover over and get the pencil, and you can adjust that radius up or down. You can also put counties in here. Again, I like radius targeting. It's my favorite type of targeting. It actually performs the best, meaning Google offers those specific municipality targets and zip code targeting and county targeting, but they're actually not very good. I found that when I split test it, it limits impressions and that radius targeting gets in front of the most people, which is what I want. So I'm going to hit save right here. We're not done with our locations. Another sneaky trick here. Google has this little drop down for location options. This is not mandatory and it's kind of hidden. We want to expand this. You can include people who are presently located or interested in the area, or presence just alone, just people who live in that radius that you selected. Now, I'm in Clearwater, Florida, so this is really hard, especially for real estate, because there's constantly people coming and going. So I don't want my ad to show up for somebody in Houston just because they were here vacationing and they typed, real estate agent or best real estate agent, let's say, right? They're not actually looking to buy real estate here. And Clearwater has a lot of transient people. It's lots of tourists here. So take this into consideration when you're setting up your campaign. Obviously, it makes a lot of sense for people in real estate to include people who are interested in the area, right? Because if that's what we're doing, people are trying to get people who are perhaps moving. And so for real estate, it makes a lot of sense with one exception. Again, if you're in an area like me with a lot of tourists, I would actually advise against it. It's going to get too much outside traffic. So, and just by default, I actually prefer just presence and not the presence or interest. Real estate is one of the exceptions where you can probably use either or. Again, it's going to depend on where you're located, and there are definitely places where you want to avoid it just because of how transient people can be, constantly people coming and going. Languages, defaults to English. We're going to leave it there. I've done a lot of ads in Spanish. If you ever want to do that, you'll select Spanish and then you'll deselect English. And then I recommend you write all your ad copy in Spanish and also bid on Spanish keywords. So another mistake I see people make is they'll come in here and say, yeah, I live in a community that has a lot of native Spanish speakers, so I want to include that. You don't want them together. I would say that's a separate campaign because for the people that you're targeting in Spanish, yeah, I would prefer that those be written in the native language that the user preferred. Same with the keywords. Audience segment. We're going to expand this again. If you notice, if you're building with me, side by side, you'll notice that the audience segments right here is collapsed. It's kind of hidden. It's not mandatory. You don't have to do this. We're going to expand it. There's a lot of little tricks Google in there, that Google slides in there. We want to be really careful. So I'm going to type in real estate here in the search field, and it's going to show us some audience examples. So using cookies, Google's tracking everybody's behavior and finding out what they're interested in and the websites they frequent. And based on that, they have collected data and built these buckets. And we absolutely want to use some of them. So let's just go through them together. So in market for real estate, pretty broad in general, but still relevant. Residential properties. So if you are doing land or farms or something niche or short-term rental, maybe not. But for me right now, I am going to include it. Residential properties for sale in market, houses for sale, new houses for sale. So if you're a construction company doing new builds, that would be a great option. Commercial properties as well, apartments. I'm just going through the list so that you can see all the wonderful options that you can pick. When you pick these, once the account's built, you can go back and put bid adjustments and say, Google, this particular audience segment is so important. I'm willing to bid 25% higher at auction time if the user falls in that bucket. I'll show you how to do that. But for now, just get an understanding. Type in some keywords that are relevant, look for some audience segments, and add all of the ones that are relevant to your business. We're going to scroll down. Broad match keywords, we're going to leave off by default. That's a good thing. Automatically created assets, off. We do not want to give Google the authority to create new ads for us. So we're going to hit next in the bottom right-hand corner. This is Google's AI tool. It's really powerful. It's getting better. It started out pretty rough. I highly recommend people play with it. I've had some decent results come from it. It needed some refinement, some small changes, but for the most part, it was pretty decent. What I've noticed is that Google's AI here, all you do is you put in the URL, is only as good as the actual website that you give it. So if it's a really well-built website with really good content in it, Google's AI will do really well. If it's a really simple outdated website with not great content, then Google's AI tool is not going to do a very good job. I highly recommend you play with it, try it out. We're going to skip it because the purpose of this video is to show you how to do it yourself. So keywords, we don't need to put a final URL in here. Google can give us suggestions. And this is another mistake I see when I audit accounts. They think this was mandatory. They put their URL in here. They put their service in here. And then Google gave them a list right here of hundreds and hundreds of keywords sometimes. And we don't want to do that. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. We can give it this prompt and it's going to say get keyword suggestions. And Google's going to pre-fill this box. So here it gave me 5, which is fine. And we can give it more keywords up here. It's going to give us more. I don't advise doing this. We want to be specific and tell Google exactly what we want. And we also don't want to use broad match when we launch. We're going to use something called phrase match, and I'm going to explain what that means here in just a second. So right now, I'm going to we're going to pretend like I'm a real estate agent. Again, for your real estate niche, please advise that you'll do what's correct for you. If you're doing land, you could be very specific and say real estate agent for land. I'm going to say real estate agent, best real estate agent in Clearwater. Sorry for my spelling. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you know it's always atrocious. Local. So you get the idea. So again, depending on your niche, you're going to want to sprinkle in some really important words. Land is one of them. If you do niche properties like luxury, you'll want to use those words. If you do condominiums, you'll want to add that. So whatever describes your real estate niche, add 3 to 5, no more. Okay, we're going to start really, really simple. Come up with 3 to 5 really relevant, similar keywords. They need to be similar and put them in this first ad group together. So this is broad match, by the way. What do I mean by broad match? Well, kind of to help explain, I'll show you what not broad match is. I'll show you what phrase match is. Phrase match is when you put parentheses around the keywords like that. That's actually how I want you to launch this campaign. So broad match means Google can take any of those words in your keyword here, like local real estate agent for broad match, and can show the ad to any similar search for any of those words. So like real estate agent, I'm bidding on. If it was broad match and someone went to Google and said, real estate agent licensing near me, my ad could show. With phrase match, I'm saying, hey, you can't do that. All right. It needs to be a little bit tighter. So keep it in the range of real estate agent. You can show the ad to people who don't search that exactly, but you need to keep those 3 words similar to the person's search query. There's another step up, which is exact match, and that's when you put brackets around the keyword. And that's when you're telling Google, look, they have to type real estate agent. They can misspell it, perhaps, rearrange it, but it has to include those 3 keywords, period. That's very limiting. So we actually want to start with phrase match. Now, you might be wondering, why am I only using a handful of keywords when there's hundreds of ways that people could look for me? That's why we're using phrase match. We're giving them a handful of keywords, and Google's going to show it to hundreds of other search queries along the way. So pick 3 to 5 and use phrase match, put those keywords in parentheses. You're going to build your ad. Again, we're using my website because I'm not a real estate agent. So, go in there and type in your final URL for your website. Add your call. So I already added mine. You saw when we first built the step, the campaign asked me to do that. Your headlines, you want to incorporate your keywords that you bid on. So I'm going to make my top headline here, local real estate agent. I want to say where I'm located. And I'm going to say contact me today. So think about some call to actions in there. If you've been in business for a long time, you might say, serving clear water for the past 15 years or for the past decade, things like that. Highly rated by customers, sell your house fast. You got 30 characters, so you'll have to get creative with some of them. But again, make sure that you include the keywords that you're bidding on. So notice that it's pulling and giving me suggestions. When you put your URL in there, it might give you some suggestions. Again, it's going to depend on the quality of your website. So right now it's offering some suggestions for headlines based on the URL, which in this case is my business. So ignore those. So sprinkle in the headlines, throw in some call to actions. The reality is today in Google Ads, you don't want or need your ad copy to be spicy or too alluring. Sometimes people are a little bit too creative with it. Google actually prefers there to be a strong correlation with the headlines in people's search queries. So if they're looking for a local real estate agent, the user wants to see that as a headline. Hey, that's what I searched for, a local real estate agent. They don't need to see anything crazy. Go down here and add at least 2 descriptions. Again, once you put your URL, it can pull from your website. So I can just pull those from my website. Be thoughtful when you put your descriptions. You've got 90 characters, which is about like 3 headlines. So you can talk about how long you've been in business, the cities or neighborhoods that you sell homes in or land in, the types of homes that you sell, luxury homes, luxury condominiums and apartments. And then why they should reach out to you with a call to action, right? We sell houses fast. Um, we get you the most for your home. Get an evaluation today or talk to us today to set up a time to talk. Be thoughtful about the descriptions. The reality is most users, including you, probably don't read ad descriptions. You probably click on based on what the headline says, but you still want to be thoughtful and make sure that it's legible and make sure that it has a strong correlation to what you are advertising. You can add some images in here. Again, it's kind of cool. They can actually pull from your website right here. So you put your URL and it would pull images. You've got free stock images available. You can upload directly from your computer if you've got some saved to your desktop. And once you put your URL up here, it'll also scan your Facebook account if it can find it and be able to pull images from there. So add a few images. Real estate's pretty easy. In fact, if you go to free stock and we say houses, obviously, that's too generic. Don't use clip art, please. But you might find a house that's similar to the types of home that you sell and look. So just give it a prompt here with some keywords and find some. And those images will show adjacent to your ad copy and it increases your click-through rate. So the user is more prone to click on an ad that has an adjacent image that's relevant next to it. I'm going to hit cancel on that. Put your business name in here, me with the spelling. We're gonna come in here and save this because I want to show you the next step somewhere else. We're gonna set a custom budget of $1 a day because I'm actually not gonna spend money on real estate ads sending people to my website, of course. We'll pause this later. So that's the basic concept of a search campaign, but we're not done. We got to circle back around and go add some things real quick, and that's what we're gonna do here. I'm gonna hit next, and we're gonna publish this campaign. Google's reviewing our settings. They're reviewing our ad right now, and they say things look good. If they find something they don't like, they're going to give you the message here and you won't be able to publish it, but they're going to tell you what's wrong so you can go fix it. We look okay. I'm going to hit publish campaign. We're going to go back out to the account settings real quick. So I've got my campaign, real estate leads. I'm going to click on that. A blue hyperlink right down here in the bottom of the table is my real estate lead campaign I just built. I'm going to click on this. And on the left-hand side, you'll see assets as a menu option. I'm going to click assets. I highly recommend you use as many of these as possible. You can use image, add your business name and logo, add site links. I would add at least 4 site links. Site links are links to specific pages of your website. You can't use 4 site links that go to the same page. It has to be 4 separate URLs. But you can send one for the contact page, one for current listings page, one for recently sold, a blog if you have it. So those take up space on Google search. So when someone searches for real estate agent, you want to take up as much real estate on Google as you can and kick out other advertisers. Site links are a great way to do that. Plus, it'll give the user the option to go directly to what they want to look at, which might be a listing. Call out, kind of the same thing. And we can take a look. I'm going to hit the big blue plus sign on call out. We can add at least 4. We can add more, but at least 4. And you might say, serving a specific neighborhood in business since 2019. Houses, get on MLS today. These are things that are going to show up here. I'll show you an example. Here's the headlines on the right. So these will show up between the with the descriptions underneath the headline. So be thoughtful. These are just like quick snippets. Call us today, things like that. But again, we're trying to take up real estate with all these on the Google Search Network. So definitely add at least 4 call outs. Same with structured snippets. We have to be more specific with our structured snippets, and I'll show you why. We've got to select a type. And when this loads, I'll drop down this menu so you can see what the options are. Neighborhoods is one of them, so that's a great one to use. Oh no, and Google crashed on us. That's always fun. So with structured snippets, again, we're trying to take up real estate here. I'm going to scroll down through this menu and look for neighborhoods. And then I'm going to put the neighborhoods that I serve. I can add more if I want. So add some neighborhoods that you want to cover. And then a couple more steps, then we're done. Hang on, hang with me here. We want to add a phone call extension. And you see it already pulled mine. If you don't already have one, hit the big blue plus sign. Again, put the phone number that you use for your ads that's published already on your website. Okay. This shows up adjacent to the ad. People have the ability to click the call if they find your ad on a mobile device. Always use a call extension. Very important. All right. If you have a Google My Business listing, So if you have an office that you want to advertise foot traffic for, use this button right here, location. You'll sync your Google My Business account to that. Those are the assets I would use for a real estate agent. Almost done. Left-hand side, far left-hand side. We're going to go to goals. And we want to make sure we are giving our phone number on these ads. So we want to make sure that we've got a conversion set up. You're going to hit that big blue plus sign to create new conversion. You're going to click this third option for phone calls, this top option for calls from ads. We're going to hit continue. And I would call it a phone call. I've got this set up several times in my account, so I'm not going to go through the process to save it. I would name it call from ads, phone call, something generic. The name doesn't matter. That's just for you. I don't use a value for phone calls. Places that take orders over the phone often will, like restaurants that do carryouts is a good example. Counts one or every. So one means that if a user called multiple times, it's just going to count it as one conversion. Every, if that one person called three times, is going to count it as three conversions, three phone calls. Again, that's just personal preference. Call length, you can control 60 seconds is the default. So if you want it to count as a conversion, if it's greater than 2 minutes, you would come in here and change that to 120 seconds. If you don't care, you drop it down to 5 seconds. And then you'd hit create and continue, and you're done. So hit cancel. That's how I would build a local search campaign for a real estate agent or somebody in the real estate field. The critical part here, the thing that I want you to walk away from most is those foundational settings we did at the first. There were several menus that were collapsed. We had to expand and go find things. We had to deselect certain options like the search network and the display network. We had to be thoughtful about our bid strategy and our locations and the presence in or presence part of it. Okay. Be really thoughtful. Take your time. Don't blow through those foundational settings. They will impact your account big. Questions, comments below. Good luck for everybody in the real estate industry, and we will talk later.